It's October, which means it's the season of Halloween and haunted houses and scaring people, which is always great fun. I don't know. Personally, I am not that big a fan of scary stuff just because I don't really like it that much. I was still kind of afraid of Monsters, Inc. when I left for college. I probably still am a little bit. So that basically says that my level of liking fear and scary stuff is very low. But the other day I went to a haunted house out here in Utah called Castle of Chaos, which is supposedly the least scary one of a lot of them in Utah, and I just have a hilarious story about that, so I'm gonna tell you about it. I personally was very impressed by this haunted house because the costumes were great, the area of the haunted house that we were in was great, everything was like very authentic, scary type looking. When I got there with the person I went with, we were waiting in line and some guy comes up to us in like full costume with like greasy hair and fake blood all over him and like gross teeth, and he just starts talking to us and I'm like, that's a little bit weird. And then he picks up this bloody fake head that was attached to his belt and it was very scary looking. I'm like, oh god, that's a little bit weird. And then some guy with a chainsaw came up who was also covered in fake blood. I'm like, okay, let's just keep going with it. Let's just see how I do. Hopefully I'll be able to make it through this haunted house. The haunted house took about 45 minutes to get through. I made it about a 1/10 of the way through. They have this thing called the hands-on experience where the actors can touch you and scare you, and I knew that would give me even worse nightmares than I would have had originally. So I was like, no thank you, I'll just not do that. We start going through the haunted house and I am grabbing onto the person I was with for dear life, screaming brains off, like looking at the floor, making sure I wasn't tripping over anything. And so everybody just kept popping out at me and I'm like, oh my god! Ah! And then the person I was with was like realizing how terrified I was and they're just like, do you want to leave? I'm like, no, I don't. And then we kept walking and then at some point I said yes, I did want to leave, but I really didn't because I wanted to finish it. I wanted to feel like I accomplished something. Then we decided to leave because I was like screaming and just terrified. And so we get to this corner, there's a security guy sitting there and we're just like, hey, can you help us find the exit? He's like, yeah, sure. So he calls on his radio, some other security guy, and the other security guy comes up and of course I scream out of fear because I expect it to be some crazy ass person in a costume. And then he just looks at me like I'm crazy and he escorts me out. And the people in the haunted house kept like scaring me and coming at me when we were walking out. And then at some point while this was happening, as I was walking out of this building, I started crying. I don't know why. I really wasn't that scared. Like I was scared but not on the verge of crying, but at some point I just started crying and it was so embarrassing. I walk outside and there's this group of like 15-year-old girls, like 6 of them standing outside. They see me walk out crying. I'm 19. I should not be able to be starting to cry at a haunted house. They look at me, they're like, oh my god, this girl came out of here crying. We're gonna like die in here. And they try to ask me questions and I'm just like, just enjoy it, just go have fun. I'm embarrassed, just leave me alone. If you have any opinions or funny stories about haunted houses and Halloween and scaring people, leave those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. You can watch my latest video here, somewhere. Subscribe somewhere, follow me on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram, somewhere, and in the description. DFTBA, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.